Who are you, and what do you do?
Well, I am Terry Brock, and I communicate. I do a lot of speaking as a professional speaker, like you, Roger, and also I'm a syndicated columnist with business journals around the U.S. Get a chance to write and talk about how to make your life better using relationship marketing and what I like to call our commerce. Not so much the e-commerce, as good as the electronics are. It's about our commerce, relationships, and that's what I get a chance to talk about and bounce around the world here and there. Roger, it's really good to be with you today.
Well, likewise, Terry, and you know what? In fact, that's why we're going to be here and talking about a variety of things, not the least of which will be, I trust, in the next few minutes, Google Plus, Klout, and wherever else the winds may blow. Terry, do you remember where we first kind of connected? Was it on Facebook or?
I think in different places. I think like so many things in social media, you talk about a connection and engagement. I'm talking about relationships and engagement. Our book Klout talks about that a lot. And really, that's what it is. It's like you hear somebody here, then you do it there, and you go here, and you say, oh, I saw your Facebook. Oh, I saw your tweet. Oh, I saw you do this or that. And I get a chance to see different things. And so I think, hey, I want to get to know this guy. And so I think it was in a convention for the National Speakers Association in Philadelphia that we got together physically, went to lunch, and got a chance to see each other. And just that I think we have so much in common. We're brothers from another mother, and we've got a lot of things and a love for technology. We also particularly like the video that's available with tools like Skype, like Google Plus Hangout, and GoToWebinar, and all kinds of wonderful tools that are out there today. And so it's, I think you and I have a lot in common with that.
Well, we do, and I think that we are a good example, and this is not self-aggrandizing, but I think this is a good example of how relationship, to use your R word, evolves, sometimes starts offline and moves online, and sometimes the other way around. In our case, started probably, I think, somewhere online, and then you took me out for some great sushi when we were in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think that's the key, and I think that's an important point because sometimes we think, oh, well, this group over here is in Facebook. And then I've got a silo over here of people with Twitter, and I go, oh, hey, it's all people. You know, and so the people that are on Facebook, on Twitter, etc., are really human beings, and that's important from a marketing point of view.
Well, not all of them.
Yeah, they're not all. Well, there are a couple there. The politicians, and we're not going to talk about them right now. But
yeah, exactly. Let's take a little bit deeper there because you know my thing is connectorship, and that's why what we're talking about is relationship.
Yeah, I love that.
And what you just brought up is actually fairly common, and I'm going to say I even started there, right? Okay, LinkedIn, that's my professional profile. And Facebook is where I connect with mom and my kids, and right, and then Twitter, that's where I do my marketing or other. And you know what? What happened for me? Because as you know, I speak at lots of webinars, and I got people all around the world. Some people wanted to connect on Twitter, and then somebody sends me a Facebook connection invite, and then somebody else wants to connect on LinkedIn, and I'm like, there is the tension, or at least one of the tensions that we need to resolve, and I'm facing it down myself, which is from the inside out, here's how I see the world, but you know what? My market out there has their own perspective, and if so-and-so wants to connect with me on Facebook, now my question is, do I want to develop a relationship there, or do I want to artificially keep this for my friends and family? Not a right or a wrong, just out of curiosity, though. I'm going to bet that's something you've thought through even more than I, given that, well, besides your experience with tech, you wrote that book on Klout.
Yeah, exactly. You raise a very important point. This is like advanced social media. We're way beyond the 140 characters on Twitter only. You know, those kind of things that we did a few years ago, and that was okay then. But now we're at the point where it gets real murky. It's like, okay, I know this person, and you want to get to know them as more than just, that is Mr. Jones who does accounting, and you see him only on April when you got to do. No, we get to know people as, well, people. And the social media and the technology have really propelled this and fueled a much better way to get in touch with people, but it also raises other concerns like, do I want everybody knowing all these other personal things about me? And what about privacy? You know, I want to see privacy. Like, for instance, as an example, you know, you're in my home right here. Roger, you are in my home right here. This is my study where I am, and you see my books over there and everything.
The Art of Kama Sutra.
Yeah, look, there we go. Look at that. Yeah.
See?
What do we know about Terry? Where did that come from? Oh my goodness! You know, and so the people are looking at that. I remember when I was the chief enterprise blogger with Skype. They asked me to come on board, and I did a lot of things with them, and I do interviews. And I remember there were many times we do something, and I'd have an interview, and I go, Charlie, there's that picture over your left shoulder that you probably might not want the world seeing. He looks over and goes, oh, my goodness, I better take that. And he reaches over, because when you're in your home, you can have all kinds of things, and if all we're doing is talking on the phone, well, no big deal. Nobody's going to see it. But now we've reached a whole nother level because of the technology. That means we've got to rethink how much we're going to share, what we're going to share, what we're not going to share. How do we keep it private? Because it's very difficult to. And, what do we do? So I don't think we've got firm answers yet. We've got some good ideas. But a lot of us, we're making this up as we go. And we need to stay in touch with our tribes and communities to figure out the most appropriate response in the most appropriate medium.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I'm a fan of doing when it comes to presenting online or talking about this kind of stuff is always go back to what do you do in person. It's not antithetical to be authentic and not tell everybody my dirtiest, darkest secrets, right?
Right.
Now we move online and somehow our brains disconnect or something, and I just remind people, and I'm sure you've said this as much or more than I have, if it's online, we should assume it's public.
Oh yeah, and even if it's
I don't care what your settings say. We should assume that God and country can find it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we saw just recently in the news, as we're recording this, a certain person who said things on the telephone that he thought was just a private conversation, and as a result, his entire career has been ruined. His reputation, probably for the rest of his life, ruined because of the things that he said. He thought it was private. Well, it's very easy, to do that. When you're talking on the phone, when you're out in public, people all around you have these mobile phones. You can be recorded. Just assume that you are being recorded, and you're being, I won't say taped. People say, well, you're being filmed, you're being taped. No, I don't use, if I use this, I'm not taping. We don't have any tape in here, okay? It's recording. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, you got that. You got the cassette. I love it. Those things are great. But what we're doing is at any moment, you can be recorded, so just be aware that you don't want to misbehave when you're out in public. Shouldn't have anyway, but now even more.
Yes. Well, to use a slightly bit of TV-14 language, that particular news incident is a good reminder, as my friend Justin Foster says, it's a lousy time to be a douchebag.
Yep, exactly. It's a lousy time, and so just always be professional. I think it's like, I remember watching some training videos from Navy SEALs, and one of the instructors was saying, it's okay to celebrate and to party, after you've worked hard, go out and have a few beers, but always, always be professional. Yeah. And I thought, ooh, that's a good rule of thumb. No matter what, yeah, play, have fun, do it, but always be professional. And so, and of course, that's a line that we don't know exactly how you define that. What I might consider professional, another person might consider different. But I think just be careful and be aware in today's world and the rest of our lives. You can be recorded at any time, and the NSA can be listening. Not the National Speakers Association, but those other guys who do the listening. We're the speakers, we're the ones who do the talking.
That's exactly right. Terry, let's talk about Google Hangouts, the very technology that we're using today. I know that you're probably a bigger fan than me. I'm a big fan of saying, well, I think the different tools have their different places in my world, since I'm typically working with mid and large-sized companies who are looking for a professional solution. By and large, the Fortune 5000 are not using free Google Hangouts for a variety of reasons. And I know you've been into it, you're loving it, and have discovered some interesting things about it. And of course, we can't beat the price. Tell me why you're into Google Plus Hangouts and what you like about it.
I come at it from the point of view of a jaded journalist. My background is in journalism, and I'm a writer now and have been since I was in second grade, I'll have you know, in writing. Of course, I'm hoping I get a little bit better now. But I look at Google Plus Hangouts, and I see what it can do. You're right, the price is a key factor. But if there were a charge, and I'm thinking there will be someday, probably for a certain level of service that they would put in. But right now, it gives you the ability for access free, but the real benefit is for speakers, for authors, for thought leaders, is that I can now, like you and I are doing right now, anyone in the world who has access to YouTube and can get that on a device of their choice can watch us live, or pretty close to live, just a few seconds delay. They are able to see that, and then it's recorded. and it's on a YouTube channel, so that if we create some wonderful content, we talk about some marvelous action areas that they can use, then they can go back. Here's the URL. Go in there and you can get it. So I think that that's the real advantage in the big picture point of view of Google Plus Hangouts. Is it perfect? No, I haven't seen any technology that is yet. But I see that there's a few bumps. Once you get past those initial bumps, the initial things that often happen, and you learn a few ways to work around it, pretty dang nice. And I think it's got some real benefits for disseminating information, for connecting with people, and maybe I'm just a dreamer, like one of my heroes, Andrew Carnegie, who believed that with technology we would be able to have world peace. World War I broke his heart because he saw that it was just a dashing of all the hopes that he had, that we would have a peaceful world with technology because we could get there faster, and here's these things flying around now. That was amazing. Well, I think that we can do it today. Because when we can see someone and get to know them and we start exchanging ideas and commerce, doing commerce with them, we've got a better chance to have peace in our world than through any other means we've had before in history. So I'm a big fan of Google Plus Hangouts. Maybe it will bring world peace. I don't know, but we could at least hope for that.
Well, even if we don't quite get to the world peace part, that's a to-be-seen thing. There's an amazing number of benefits, both in the kind of professional and personal context, not the least of which is I spend more nights sleeping in my own bed as opposed to some strange hotel.
Yes.
Not that that's wrong, but I kind of prefer my own bed and making it to my kids' ball games. So
yes.
let's go from technology to that connection thing, right? Because we could talk about Google Plus Hangouts at the features level and or compared to WebEx, GoToWebinar, or any 300 other vendors for longer than we're going to spend. But when you think about this, especially with regards to how you connect with people, especially how deeply it's integrated into the Google ecosystem, what comes to mind for you? How do you use it for not just seeing somebody face to face, but using it to grow how you talk about that R word?
Yeah, the relationships grow because when I'm going to talk with somebody, like for instance, Gina, my partner, and I are working with a number of different people doing consulting, marketing help, those type of things. I always like to see them face to face. That's the ideal. If you can do that, as soon as they get that transporter thing from Star Trek, hey, we're happening there. But until we get that, being able to do a video conference with someone, you can watch their facial reaction. For instance, if you say, well, Terry, do you want to go with it? And I go, well, yeah, we're interested, Roger. You are watching my face. You know, as a human being, I'm probably not. I got some concerns. And so you can pick up on that and go, well, are there any concerns that you have, Terry? What can we do to help you? And, well, it's like that. And then another advantage is I can say, I've got this thing here. It's new. Look at this. They call it a pin, and when I turn it, look at that. Look, this comes out there at the top, just like that, you see? Now try doing that with just audio alone. A little bit tougher. Because a more natural way to communicate is when you can see someone. And once you get past the, oh, wow, we're seeing each other, this is great, what's the weather like where you are, what's it like here, et cetera, et cetera. We saw that at Skype all the time, where we would have people getting a chance to collaborate. So I'd be here in Orlando, we had an office in London, New York, Silicon Valley, and we're all collaborating on a regular basis, really achieving results. It's almost as if we were in the same office, and we just gather in conference room number 3 over there at 3 o'clock today. We get together, we talk about wherever we're going to do, put up information on the whiteboard, talk about that, and then we say, okay, Jane, you're going to do this, Bill, you'll do this, Mary, you'll do this. Okay, we're all agreed. We'll meet next Monday at 2 o'clock. See you then. Yep. And so now with video, we can do that. It's almost magical. It's wonderful for business. Bottom line, business-oriented results. You can do it now much more effectively with the right use of video. And when it's working, it's great. I mean, like right now, you and I are getting really good connection. How's my video and sound coming through, by the way?
So far, so good. And you're a dang good-looking guy. So,
oh, well, thank you. And a good haircut. I combed it just for you today.
And that's it's awesome because you're on camera now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think we can get a lot more done from a business point of view and from a relationship point of view. Connecting with people, we can feel their emotions more. We can connect with them. And of course, no, it is not the same as physically being there. But when I can, on a given day, typically be with people in the UK, Australia, throughout the United States, Canada, Latin America, all in the same day, Try that with just going around a little rowboat there, Sparky. It ain't going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Sparky, I got on one of those old-fashioned airplanes. I was in Sydney a couple months ago and speaking to about 80 CEOs. And here is the way that I challenge them to wrestle to the ground. And it's even more the question as opposed to having the answer. But I say, imagine this. I said, imagine you're sitting at a conference room table that butts up against a video screen that is now the entire size of a wall, right? And some of them have experienced telepresence, but still mostly that's a $500,000 room that's off to the side of the CEO's office, right? Yeah. But I said, imagine this. It's so big and it's so pervasive and it's so there. It's like the 5 of you sitting on this side of the table. There's a wall right there, but it's so perfect. On the other side of the table is the other 5 people on the other end of the conference room table. Tell me what has to happen in person. So it's not even from the chest up like Roger and Terry right now. It is like room to room, except that we're separated by this wall that happens to be a full-size video screen. I said, tell me what is absolutely critical and indispensable and irreplaceable about the human in-person experience. Can I shake your hand? No, I cannot. Can I rest my hand on your shoulder as I make a reassuring comment to you? No, I cannot. Can I pass the bag of M&Ms over to you? No, I cannot. But it starts to force us to go, I really see where this is going.
Exactly.
Because everybody on the planet says, I'd rather be there in person. Yeah, I've tried going to a meeting, and now, you know what? I'd rather talk, as you and I were talking before, I would rather be with my wife in person than talk to her on the telephone too. But that doesn't mean I don't use the telephone sometimes. And and what it's going to force us to do is get more clear about what is indispensable about being in person versus, say, indispensable about sometimes when we're online, because frankly, the change of medium, and this is one of those things I always preach to people, I said the medium affects not just what we lose but what we gain, and it's more than just saving travel or being able to do so from Portland, Oregon to Orlando, Florida, like you and I are right now. I said there's some things we can do better when we start to employ technology, and you don't get to that discovery until you get past the discomfort of the what you lose. Humanity always notices what they lose first before they get to the what do I gain part.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the gain is enormous because right now, for instance, you and I can connect, and you and I have both done this with people where we can talk and we can really get work done. And if, I need that thing, I can reach over and get it because I'm right here at home. I can do it rather than if I flew to Portland to see you. Yes, it'd be nice. We'd go out to dinner or something. It'd be great. But also there'd be times I go, I think I got that back home, or I left that thing back home, and I can now access everything here. You can see it. I can, matter of fact, one of the nice things about it, I recommend you can get a little webcam and you can say, look at what's happening. It's raining right now in Orlando. See, I start talking to Portland, Oregon, and it starts raining in Orlando, Florida. I don't know if there's a correlation, but I think the facts pretty much speak for themselves there.
Yeah, exactly. Sunny and clear right here in Portland, which is, I think, means the world is upside down.
It is. It's crazy. But I think what we've got to look at is realize, okay, it's here to stay, and it's a whole lot better. Like, for instance, some of the things we talked about with Skype were the benefits of being able to use Skype in emergency situations. For example, first responders. Say there's a natural disaster somewhere. All communication lines are down. It's a disaster. It's a mess. Well, they can send in those first responders immediately, and they put up a big pole, and it's got Wi-Fi on it. Now, as the first responders get in there, they can go down, they can say, there's a man here, and he's alive, yes, but there's a tree on top of him. We're going to do this, and they connect back to the experts that are standing around there at the university hospital. They can see what's going on. They can talk to the EMT right there, say, check his vital signs, do all these things that medical people talk about. And we're ultimately talking about saving lives because of the technology and the video quality we have today. Has to be very, very sharp for engineering, medical applications, things like that. And we're at a level right now where for many applications, it is not only acceptable, but used regularly.
Yeah. Well, in general, we're talking about the death of distance. And the question, is work and or learning a place? A friend of mine is a police officer. He's the chief detective of a department, and he called me one time because he's coming into town from out of town because he needed to interview some bad guy who had done something bad, and then in the process gotten himself burned, and he was sitting in a hotel in a hospital room here in Portland, and he was calling me, and this is a number of years ago where it wasn't quite so easy. about how he could connect the judge who needed to arraign the guy who was in a burn unit in the hospital and who could speak, and anyway, the judge was going to arraign him by using Skype.
Yep.
Because he wasn't fit to travel, but he could be arraigned and in the process of trying to nail this bad guy. So
it's amazing what we can do.
It is pretty amazing. So I think probably, and I think you would agree with me, I think one of the questions is not if it's better or worse, but the question is on the table for everyone is, when is it the right tool for the job in context?
Exactly. I think that's the best way to put it, Roger, the way you say it. Because, for instance, if I'm rushing to see you, we've got a meeting at 10 o'clock, and I'm running a little late, it would not be appropriate to say, okay, so I'm going to stop here on the 5, and I'm going to pull off, and I'm going to send you a very eloquent video that I will be a little bit late. No, that's not appropriate. Be better just pick up the phone and say, Roger, I'm running late. I'll be there 15 minutes late. Traffic's a mess, etc. That's a nice way to do it. Sometimes, if you're sitting somewhere else, you can send a text message. Notice not driving, but texting when you're sitting somewhere and you're offline. Then, hey, a text message can be the best. It can be, are you sure? Are you sure? Those kind of things. That is the appropriate method there. It's just that I think we have to look at, as you've said to so many people and helped in so many ways, Roger, the video is a tool. Used in its proper and correct context, it is very, very useful to communicate and enhance connections, as you talk about so much. The connections, the connectedness, am I saying that right? Connectedness of it. We'll make up our own words if we need, and build relationships.
And if you order before midnight, people, you'll get the Ginzu knives absolutely free.
Yes.
But, well, here's an example, and kind of go back away from video or web conferencing, back to kind of that broader issue of what's the trend in the world, and how am I going to respond to it? Here's an example that you just made me think of. I'm connected with a fellow speaker on Facebook. He happens to live in Portland, and we had set up a time to have a cup of coffee via the chat function, the instant chat function on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not late very often, but on this particular day I was going to be a little bit late. I'm driving down the road. I asked Siri, hey, would you call so-and-so? Sorry, I can't find them. What I realized was we had never connected by mobile phone. It's either been in person or just Facebook chat, and we had arranged everything, including where we're going to meet, when we're going to meet, and I didn't have the guy's mobile phone number to just send him a text message using Siri. So now the question back to all of us, is this about doing social media, or is this about the fact that the world is often living in a multi-channel way, right? Is Facebook chat my preferred way to communicate with people and set up an appointment? No. But as it turns out, in this particular case, rather poignantly, I figured out it was his primary way of connecting and developing this relationship, as I discovered driving down the road, realizing that I didn't have his mobile phone number.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important to try to connect with them in the way that they prefer and be contextually sensitive. Understand what is the best way to connect at that time for that particular task. And video is an integral part of what we're doing. We've gone past two of the biggest roadblocks that we had years ago when I was getting started in it. I know you were getting started early as well. One was the quality of the video was really bad. It looked like, remember those old things called VHS tapes years ago, long ago? And if you made a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, it looked really bad, like you were wiggling around on there, terrible. The audio was bad. Well, our video was like that a while back. Now it's much better. And another thing that's helped is bandwidth. Bandwidth has gotten much better so that we're able to have really clear TV quality broadcasts and communication one-to-one. And so I think there's a lot of advantages. The real key for the business professional watching this is think about how you can use video. Think about the possibilities. Get to know it. Find out what it is. Do your homework. Put in some coins and learn how to do it. Put in your time, money, and effort, and make sure you learn at least what it can do, so that if you're in, say, real estate, you can think, okay, well, how could we use it in real estate here? Or if you're over in engineering, how can we as engineers do this? Find out what's available, and then get the help you need and learn about video.
Yeah. One comment on the real estate thing, and then we're going to transition to your book. But I actually worked with a realtor once who wanted to do house showings online. he used the term webinar. In this case, I just used, in this case, GoToMeeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm talking to him, he expressed to me, he says, well, the main reason you do an open house on a Sunday afternoon isn't to sell that house. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, of course, if you could sell that house, that's great, but the people that walk in are looking, and they're going to look at multiple houses. The biggest thing that you want to do is get a lead.
Yes.
And he said, I've got two issues. There's only so many Sunday afternoons in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is, I think there are other ways to reach people. So what I've got is I'm going to do a house showing virtually, and I actually started to do this, where I have pictures. I talk about it. We invite them to a meeting, and I post the ad on Craigslist or something. I do it at on a Wednesday evening or sometime I'm otherwise not doing an open house like I would on a Sunday afternoon. And now what do? I have a chance to develop a relationship. I get a lead, and that's not going to replace me being there so they can smell the cinnamon that I put in the oven. But it was an alternative, additional method that expanded his way of doing stuff. Now, how many realtors do you think are open to the idea of doing a virtual house showing? Well, still, man, a lot of them are like, oh, now you got to be in there in person, which isn't right or wrong, but that was his competitive advantage at the time. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, because we are going to increasingly say, are you going to be the person who maybe just takes a little bit of a risk, tries something out, and has the potential to expand how you connect with people, or are you going to just be married to the way that you've always done it? And if you're going to do it the way you've always done it, that's okay. But you just got to know that the world's going to change around you, and there's going to be a place for people who are old school, because it's not old school, it's still human, but you just got to be aware of it, and now make a conscious choice about whether or not you do or don't want to expand your horizons.
Yeah, that's true. We have to look at what can you do. If you want to see, if I, as a buyer, am interested in moving to Portland, Oregon, and I want to see several different houses, I can narrow my criteria and find out what is it that I'm looking for, and the fact that I could go and see 20 homes in an afternoon would be a lot more beneficial for me than seeing only one or two, because I can't get through traffic and can't go to all of them and get worn out from it. It'd be good to be able to see a lot, and then I can narrow the list down much more rapidly. A lot of companies are now using video to look at candidates. One of the companies that I interviewed when I was with Skype is somebody called Interview Job 360, where they train people like accountants, scientists, and others who are not always as good on camera. That's not their area of expertise, on the importance of it, because they can be eliminated for a job if they come across really badly on video.
Yeah.
There's a whole industry that has grown from that, of people training you how to dress, how to appear, how to behave on video, what to do and what not to do. And I think that's where the world is, and you could be thoroughly qualified as, say, an accountant or an engineer. But if you don't make it past that video hurdle, you're in deep kimchi.
Yep. Well, and I've actually had someone say, because they were working in this case it was a Fortune 1000 company, the expense that we go through to hire someone is significant. And in their case, they were talking about sales training or sales hiring, and they decided they were going to move the opening interview to virtual for two reasons. One, they wanted to drive some cost out of the hiring process and be able to get through more candidates. And the second was, how can you handle yourself? Because if you can't log into WebEx and use it, well, how are you going to use it when you're on our sales team?
Mm-hmm.
That was the tool that they were using at the time.
Yeah.
So.
Good point.
Transition to your book, because one of the things, and here's one of the things that I like about you and the way that you've approached Klout to the degree that I understand it. But I like the way John Maxwell refers to leadership. He says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Right? Here comes Klout going, hey, you've got Twitter followers, you've got Facebook people, you've got, whether you've got 30 or 30,000 Twitter followers, the question is, how are you being influenced? What is the way that you are connecting with people and is it influential? Am I understanding kind of from your, this is my outside perspective of Klout and what it at least initially tried to bring to the table. Enlighten us. Tell us why someone would want to be interested in Klout and what feedback that's going to give them.
Yeah, well, Klout is a way of measuring influence, and it's Klout with a K, by the way. Klout at Klout.com. You get a chance to find out, okay, how influential, how really good was that post you did the other day, and those tweets that you're sending out. Which ones really make a difference? You're connecting with people. That's really what it's about. It's a way of measuring, not just, well, my gut tells me that we did a good job here. Well, we objectify that. We make it really quantitative, so you can go and find out how you're doing, how well you're doing, and it is about connecting and engaging with others. That's what we talk about in the book more than anything. And it's really, even if there was no such a tool as Klout, the concepts and the principles that are available with this whole medium have been valid throughout the centuries. You engage with people, you listen to them, you find out where they have needs, and then you respond accordingly. Blasting an email message is not about Klout, not about engaging. Blasting a message is just saying, I think I'm wonderful, I'm going to blast this out to everyone, and that way of doing things is eroding, and it's not as effective. We want people that are interested in us, and when you really want to be successful, it matters. And so it's a way for brands also to connect to the right people. For example, Chevrolet wanted to reach a lot of people to sell more of their Chevy Volt. So they went to Klout and said, tell us people that are really getting a lot of good followers in the area of cars and the environment. Klout was able to find those people quantitatively, and then Chevy said, oh, okay, here are the keys for a long weekend. You can have this Chevy Volt for a long weekend. Just enjoy it. And you don't have to say anything, and you don't have to say anything good, but if you want to, that's fine. It's your choice completely. Here you go. Have a good time. And Chevy realized that was one of the best uses of funds for them, because they were able to then target people who were highly influential, who then told others, hey, I've been driving that Chevy Volt this weekend, and I like this part, I didn't like this part, but this is good, etc. And we find those kind of things are happening. American Airlines, for instance, said anyone that has a Klout score of 55 or higher on a 1 to 100 scale, if you're at 55 or higher, we're going to let you stay in our American Admirals Club. Very prestigious place, and you don't even have to fly American that day. Just come on in, and it's great advertising for American. People are using it now in a regular way. So Klout really is important because of the principles and the importance of engagement.
Right. Well, which I love. But let me wrestle it to the ground, or have you wrestle it to the ground at the individual level. And I know you're good at this, right? It's interesting. We all kind of get the idea of influencing influencers. Chevy or American Airlines goes out there and says, hey, if we even just let them stay in our Admirals Club, and I got that invite because my Klout score is higher than that. And I'm like, oh, cool. And what's their opportunity? Roger does a tweet about it, and they get some some press out of that. That's their opportunity. But now let's bring it down to those of us who we are the brands, but I'm not American Airlines, right? And for someone who is listening to this, they're going, okay, so I've just learned about Klout, maybe even why I should want to pay attention to Klout. But for me, now that I am, I hook up Klout to my Twitter account, Facebook account, LinkedIn account, whatever I hook it up to, what's that feedback going to give me that helps me do better relationally with my team, my tribe, etc.?
I think people that are hiring influencers, they're hiring authors, they look at a Klout score. People who are hiring speakers will often look at a Klout score. People who are actors are judged by their Klout score now. Directors, producers are saying, hey, we got this big movie coming up, and we need to get a key actor in this role. We've got 3 actors we're looking at, A, B, and C. They're all good, but which one do we go with? Well, a tiebreaker can become Klout score, because obviously higher score means you have more influence. Right. More people are going to come and pay attention. And I'll tell you, one of the things that really helps, this isn't even in our book, but we found out about it after our book was written. One of the people in our mastermind group is J.B. Glossinger. He's got the #1 podcast in the world on personal development and Morning Coach, and he does a great job with it. And we were talking to him about what Klout is. He had not heard of it, explained it, and he thought, oh, that's really interesting. He started studying a little bit more. A couple weeks later, he and his wife were in Colombia, Bogota, Colombia. She's from Colombia, and they go back and forth between Fort Lauderdale and Colombia regularly. They were down there for a trip, and they had some extra meetings. Things came up. They had to change their flight. They were going to stay a few days later. They called the airline. The airline said, okay, we can change that, and that'll cost you $800 for a change fee. whoa, you know, and I thought, whoa, that's a lot of money for that. And then JB remembered what we were talking about. And he said, oh, well, here's who I am, here's what I do, and my Klout score is this. Don't take my word for it. You look it up, because your Klout score is public. People can get it all over the world. And they said, okay. They hung up. Within the hour, they called him back and said, oh, Mr. Glossy, we're so glad you're flying with us. Thank you very much for flying with us. And for you and your wife, we are waiving the fee, and we're going to move the two of you to the front of the plane. Thank you very much for flying with us today. And so you see, Klout matters. It
Right.
really does matter in certain areas, and even if there wasn't a score, you'd still want to practice the principles that we outline in the book of engaging with people, how to do it, what to do. We show some of the nuts, bolts, and wiggle pins of how to make it work there, but also how you can just engage with basic principles wherever you are. It's important to engage, to connect, as you say, Roger, connect with people.
Well, you know what, and this is, to me, part of how technology starts to bring out around an egalitarian opportunity for all of us, right?
Yes.
What you just described, he could be the biggest person in the world in his little niche, and nobody knows who the heck he is because the world's a big place, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it was Bono, it wouldn't have been having that conversation,
Yep.
right? But it doesn't have to be that we come at it from a "do you know who I am" kind of perspective, even though some of us always want to, probably want to be there. But on the flip side of the coin, to me, and this is one of the things I find interesting about it, it's in a sense a mirror with which I can more quickly gauge how the world is responding to what I'm putting out.
Yes.
I can either make a choice, okay, because there's people who do nothing but do stuff just to kind of game their score, and I know Klout's done a great job of trying to not be gameable, right?
Mhm.
But if I posted pictures of kittens, I'd probably get more retweets than me posting a question about leadership, right? Because kittens are just hot. Kittens are always
People
hot.
like kittens.
but you know what I mean? Because now I can go, oh, that's interesting. That was something that contributed more to how I engaged with my audience than this other thing that I did, and that's useful feedback for me to be interesting and useful in my own development, right? It's part of a dialogue with your marketplace.
Absolutely. You can actually see which post did better. You go into Klout.com and check the moments that are there, and you look at the pictures and you go, oh yeah, remember that post I did last week? Wow, that got a lot of response. But where's that one that I thought was really, really cool? It isn't there. And I thought it was really going to be hot. Well, it isn't. And so you've got a way to get the feedback of what's working and what isn't working. The old advertising adage that I believe it was someone wise long ago said, I forget his name, but 50% of the advertising I have is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. Now we can quantify that and go, oh, we know what is working and what isn't working. So you can start over a period of time smoothing out the averages, and they do that with a lot of real fancy number crunching. They get a chance to erase the momentary blips of you went on a vacation and your Klout score went down, or you had a birthday and so that was a big bounce that way. Smooth that out over a period of time, and you're able to get a much better feel of where you really stand.
Terry, this has been great. It's been good to get your feedback. I know your Klout score is quite a lot higher than mine, and I'm sure that's on purpose and in part because you kick some butt. And for those of you who don't know, look up Terry Brock. Terry, where are people going to find you, assuming they want to come say, how do I tap into the awesome sauce bacon part of Terry and what you can do for me? Where are they going to find you?
Well, we got some goodies waiting for people over in my blog. I like to put the information out fresh and new a couple of times a week on my blog. So you get audio and video, and then I point to articles that I'll write here and there. So come over to terrybrock.com, and that's Terry for Terry, and Brock is spelled the right way, B-R-O-C-K. So you go to terrybrock.com, you'll see that. Click on the blog, you'll see the kind of things I do. I speak for a lot of groups and write and just kind of have fun helping people to learn how to market more effectively and have fun themselves.
Actually, let me even add an exclamation point to that. Terry Brock is the real deal. He's a Hall of Fame speaker. He's awesome in front of an audience, online or off, and he really knows what he's talking about. So I would encourage you to go check that out, or check out. It's called Klout Matters, right?
Kloutmatters.com. You can go there. And matter of fact, one of the cool things there, whatever you do, learn what it is. Go to Kloutmatters.com. We had an interview with Joe Fernandez. He's the CEO and co-founder of Klout. And we just talked to him, just a wonderful guy. Did the video interview, and he gives some real valuable information about why President Obama's Twitter page is more important than the front page of the New York Times. Today, things have changed, and Joe Fernandez talks about that. That's something you can learn a lot. If you're a business person, you're in the world today, and you want to make an impact, go there. And there's no charge, of course. You don't even have to opt into it. Just go in Klout Matters, watch the video, and you can bounce around and see other things that are there.
Awesome, Terry. Thank you for your time. Hope all of you got a little bit of something out of this. I'm sure you did. And please do go check out terrybrock.com or cloutmatters.com. Lots of great value there, I know for a fact, because I go there myself. So we will catch you next time around. Have a great day.